Hey everybody, Matt Pearson, Learning and Video Master for TechSmith. So glad you're here. I've got Andy and Justin with me today, and we're going to be talking about the things you need to do and think about before you hit record. So gentlemen, this is something I think is going to be super exciting to talk about because it's getting us to the exciting part of actually making the video. But I think there's some key steps before you ever hit record. So what are the things you guys have thought about in terms of like, okay, you've done your pre-planning, you've done your you're thinking about what you're going to share, your message. What are the key things you need to do before you actually hit record? Any thoughts?
Man, there's a lot of things we can go down the road with on this one, because I think, in fact, just before we started recording, I'm just going to share a little behind the scenes. Justin's camera went blurry, and that's something with webcams that is hard to control. So, for example, I just told him, put your hand up as close to the webcam as you can. I won't do it fully, but you get it real close so that your webcam pulls focus and puts it on the hand. See, it's going to do it. Mine's freaking out right now. And then you pull it closer to your face so that it follows the focus and gets it in focus on you. Because what you need is to be in focus. You'd hate to start recording, and then after you're all the way done, find out, oh, didn't set focus on my camera. For me, I like to white balance my cameras. A lot of cameras don't need it. You know, if you're using an iPhone or a webcam like this, white balance is really just like tapping on the screen, or, you know, you might have Logitech software that you just say like, hey, make sure it's not too warm, not too cold looking. Those are like some camera things you can do, but also, man, I don't want to, I tell you, there's so many roads you can go down. I don't want to go past the value of naming conventions in how you save your assets, right? So if we're doing a screen recording video, if we're doing a video of a bunch of different video clips and we want to put them all together in our video, if we've got sound effects or narration, where are you storing all that stuff on your hard drive? Where is it going? For me, I like to have a very standardized set of folders. And the first folder is usually, and I always number them so that they show up in the same order of my priority. And without a visual, I'm going to bore you guys to tears. So here we go. I'm going to go through them real fast. 00 is project.
No, I'm writing this down. So spit
Excellent.
it to me.
00 projects. That's the first folder. 01 is video or footage. That's the video folder. It should all live in there, including screen recording. You can separate them out by video and screen recording subfolders. 02 is going to be audio. You're going to have a separate folder for music and narration if those things exist in your video. What I land on. 03 is going to be graphics or images. Maybe you've got pictures. Maybe you've got logos you want to use. Separate all those types of image files into that folder. 04 is going to be documents. I put scripts in there. You can have any other documents you might need, like bios on people that you're interviewing maybe. 05 is going to be your exports folder. That's where I'm going to save my drafts until I have the final version, which is the approved final. Sometimes I'll put captions in that folder as well. So there's my big assign your folders pitch.
I have so many questions. Why the zeros?
This is a great question because I forgot when I originally set up my folders to include a projects file the first time I ever did this. And so it's just a carryover from my first mistake. The first time I ever did this, I started 01 footage, 02, and I went down the list. And then I was just saving my projects in the general folder because I was like, oh, I'll just have one video project. There's my Camtasia file, or there's my Premiere Pro, or whatever video editor you're using. It's just going to be one. It's never just one. There's always more than one.
but to Justin's question, the zeros gives you the control over the order of what you put them in. That's so 01.
Yes.
But if you end up with more than 10, right? Like 10, 1, so you're just trying to keep control of the order of your folders. And so that way, ultimate flexibility in terms of what you want to do. But I think, Andy, are you also kind of going through these and saying these are the things, like these are the order that you're most likely to use them or need them in when you're actually going to make your video?
It's both priority order for me and like chronologically. I'm going to set up a project first. I'm going to then get my footage ready to go, or screen recordings, not always. Like this is a carryover from when I did weddings, in years past. Footage was always the first thing collected. Music would come later. And so for me, it was chronologically. I had the footage, then I'd need to get the audio. Images would be, after that. And some projects aren't going to have all these things either. Like I would say the majority of my work, the scripts I keep online, Sometimes if I'm handing them off to a vendor or a third party or another editor, I'll remember to download the script and include it in the file, because otherwise it's just me who's accessing it. I know it's online. I know where to find it. But it's good to keep all those things together in case you ever hand off the project. But yeah, it's priority and, the order of when I come to that part of the project for me.
Yeah, so I'm going to come at this from a different perspective, because I agree. I have lots of folders that are projectized like that. But I think the goal is get yourself organized so that you can do your work quickly and efficiently, and whatever makes sense for you. And I love Andy's structure, and I've used that structure myself for bigger projects. For smaller projects, I just dump stuff in a folder because I don't have 20 different files. I have like 4, and it's not hard to get organized. But the key is get organized so that way when you're in production or when you're filming stuff or you're editing stuff, you don't have to go spend time. I spend so much time trying to go out onto like a network drive or look on an old hard drive to find stuff. That's what's going to get bogged down. You're going to get out of flow. And so just come up with a structure that works and be ready for that, so that way you can move through your project. That's the goal, to get the project done.
Well, Justin has a comment before you. I was just going to say, my other thing is when I did it alphabetically, video was, 01 video would always show up last for V. Oh, you can see paint on my sleeve. That's cool. The V would always show up at the bottom of my folder, and it was usually the first thing I needed. So it drove me crazy that it was all out of order, because that's, I'm not obsessive compulsive necessarily, but sometimes I can be with these things.
Well, again, for me, and I'll be honest, I have never used a folder structure for any video I've ever made. So I'm gonna admit that right here to everybody. But even just having the folders in place starts to make sense to me, as far as I don't have to start from scratch to think about what to bring in for my video, right? I know, I need my TechSmith logo, or I need these, and so it ties back into the other conversations we were having about planning and making sure you get your video planned out. And this is to me anyway, as somebody who hasn't really done it, this would be the final step in actually having a place to then house all those things that you have pre-planned, and then you can go forth and be, like Matt was saying, be faster with your video creation. Because sometimes even if I have a script, it's I haven't thought out of the graphics or thought about what this sort of screen casting I might want to put in there, and then I just hop into Camtasia and I'm trying to make the video.
That's another good point too, right? We're talking about before you hit record, and what graphics do you need before you hit record? Are you going to be showing them while you're recording, or is this something you can put in afterward? If we're recording a software interface, and it's software that we use all the time. Let's say I'm recording Snagit, right? I want to show someone how to do something in Snagit, and I've got my recent trays of other Snagit images I've created at the bottom, and it's kind of a mess. I can go through and clear that out before I start recording, or even just close the tray, so that when I record, my audience is focused on what I want them to be focused on, not on all my old work that wasn't intended to be shown. So it's things like that where you kind of clean up your user interface. I know Matt's talked a lot in the past about clean up your desktop, kind of background. Do you want family pictures as your desktop background while you're recording, or do you want kind of a generic, Windows or Mac, whatever it is, background, so it doesn't distract from your message?
Hide the extensions, hide the apps, hide all the stuff that you don't want people looking at, because I'm a nosy person, I think, and I will look at all the things that you've got open, what programs are they using? Because one, I'm generally interested in, maybe I'm if they're using that, maybe I should use that. But I think if that's not what you want me to focus on, don't show me that, because it's I'm always looking for Camtasia in any screen recording. Are they using Camtasia? Are they using that? Because I want to know.
Yeah. Well, it's just it can be distracting too, right? As a viewer of that content, you are automatically down another trail, trying to figure out what's on their desktop there, right? Or what icon, what folders are back there, or things like that. So I think even just as a viewer of that content, and I do the same thing in a myriad of ways, where it's what's that other thing? Any of those little things that you may unknowingly put into your video that could be a distraction, get them out of there.
Yeah. I talked about that in I think it was the last time we spoke, where I brought up my big French word of mise en scène. When you're recording and you're on screen and you've got anything in your background is a distraction. I've even got a notebook next to me. I just noticed was in the widescreen. I'm going to move out of the way now. But you're in control of anything that shows up on camera. That's true of your desktop too. You're in control of it. So hide it. You know, anything you don't want shown. In fact, sometimes when we record our screen, we won't show the top bar of the screen. It'll show that I'm recording using Camtasia, but it also shows like the date and time, and that kind of dates it. And you know, so those are the kind of things you can hide once you're recording too.
I was going to say, it's funny as you bring that up, like I'm even thinking like the internal videos I make, right? Like I'm trying to show somebody a Google Analytics dashboard or something. Like I always hide my tabs and my bookmarks. And because again, like I don't want that to distract anybody. Like, well, what's Justin got on his bookmarks? Like,
how many tabs does he have open, right? Justin?
You don't want to know how many tabs I have open. You don't want to know how many tabs I have open because I'll get that comment too. But yeah, it's like trying to limit those distractions to where and even in the shot of Google Analytics, I might even try to blow that up as big as I can to get any of the other stuff that's distracting compared to what I'm actually trying to show, which is like the data point. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that as far as like cleaning up what's on the actual screen as well.
I do. I mean, I think if you're doing screen recording, best practice is that you're going to run through that process at least once, because a couple things happen, right? Like you might be surprised at how the screen changes in ways that are unexpected, like things might pop up or something might cover something up that you didn't just plan for. And so you really want to just walk through that process once if you can, to see all the things that might get in the way. And also just to try to look at it from a fresh perspective, like how can I'm going to use my big word for the day is cognitive overload, right? Like if you've got lots of things happening on the screen and you're not helping me to focus on the most important thing, I'm going to start that takes its toll, and it's going to start being kind of heavy to pay attention to. So you want to try to reduce all the things that don't matter and really help the individual to focus. Now, some of this might be done in post-production, but if you can do as much as possible during the kind of the recording process, you're going to go a long way. And I was thinking, as I've heard you both talking, it's like what needs to be repeated every single time I'm going to make a video, and how can I make that just super scalable, like repeatable, and so I don't forget, because I know I always forget this stuff, right? I'll start recording and then something will pop up and I'm like, oh, I know better. And so it's just like, how can I help myself to not make those mistakes? Because ultimately that takes time. In fact, I started recording this morning and I just got to a point, I'm like, I just have to start. I think it was about 5 minutes in. I'm like, because it's a longer presentation, I just have to start over now because it's thrown me off. I wasn't expecting it. I had a pause in the so I think just kind of overall, all this stuff is finding repeatable, scalable things that you can just do and make your life easier. But go through the practice.
Absolutely, and it helps to know yourself and your not just your strengths but your weaknesses. Like for me, I know there's certain things I tend to forget, and so in the video.
والله ما ادري قاعد بيتفاهم ويا عقب سويت له فويس سويت له الحين بيضرب شوف تعال الو الو صدقك والله برنامج عجيب ما يقطع شو اسمه هاي مرحبا حمد كيف الحال؟
مرحبتين بخير الحمد لله رب العالمين.
ايه هلا
كيف الستوري يبغى حد يشوف بثنا
البث شغال ترى ها
كيف يبغى
صبر
الطلاب قاعدين يدرسون في الحصص كيف منو بيدخل؟
انتم تدشون ترى
نحن بس
ولا مناظر هو ترى يبغى يسوي جو في عمره عاد شو اسوي له؟
قول له لا قول له غير صح.
ايوه بالضبط اثبت له مباشر جاهز
الله مبتلى.
مباشر البث اليوم البرومو
الحين بتغصبنا نداوم يعني باكر نشوف عشان
هو
فترة
يبغاها عاد شو اسوي؟ يا اخي الصوت فنان ما يعلق ولا شيء.
كفو عليك سيف كفو عليك كفو عليك. كله بيتصور
الحين بجرب بشوف اسوي